Welcome to your training for child discipline for the Transportation Department. Let me begin by reminding you that everyone who works for the consortium, whether you're a consultant or whether you actually work and receive a paycheck from a district corporation, I placed on the screen, this is what it says. As a recipient of federal Head Start funds, the consortium must at all times comply with federal Head Start performance standards. All consortium employees, consultants, contractors, and volunteers are responsible for complying with the Head Start performance standards, including but not limited to the following. This training will be going over one specific area of the federal Head Start standards, and that is about how children are to be disciplined or how they are not to be disciplined. We will be going over a rather extensive set of terms and definitions at the close of this, but let's lay the groundwork by having a look at our policies, policy number 18, and we'll look at policy number 19, just so you understand we have policies for discipline, education and child development program services, and the program standard human resources. So we're dealing with the performance standard number 1302.9, the subsection C. That means, of course, there's an A and a B, and then under C there's more than one, but there's one, and then under one there's double I. So anyway, there's several things, but we're specifically dealing with that specific performance standard. And then also 1302.45 A and 1. You can look them up, but here's what it says. To ensure staff, consultants, contractors, and volunteers do not maltreat or endanger the health and safety of a child. So that entails a whole variety of things. And the second one is wellness promotion, to support a program-wide culture that promotes children's mental health, social, and emotional well-being, and overcome health. A program must, and then it has a whole list of things. So here's number 2 that we're talking about. Provide support for effective classroom management and positive learning environment, supportive teacher practices and strategies for supporting children with challenging behaviors and other social, emotional, and mental health concerns. Because you're in the transportation department, it does include you not just because of being in the classroom, but it specifically talks about classroom management, but that also includes managing children while on a bus or embarking on or off of the bus, so that they also have a learning environment there. Finally, we have to understand that our policy talks about supporting challenging behavior of children. So testing limits, physical aggression, biting, temper tantrums, and bullying are among the most common challenging behaviors. Many caring teachers struggle with these behaviors. Now, this policy was written specifically for the teachers. However, once again, it covers the transportation department as well. So our policy reads as follows. The consortium's policy is to provide support for staff through training, coaching, modeling, and referrals. Additionally, the consortium will support parents to ensure a plan is developed that is appropriate to meet the needs of the staff, children, parents, and classroom environment. So should you have struggling situations with children, you also can ask for additional training, coaching, or even modeling from someone else in the consortium to help. And then, of course, if something has to happen with the parents, there is a mechanism that steps in, and there are opportunities for meetings to be had with the parents, with social workers and or mental health experts to assist in the challenging behavior. So we're going to talk about the policy today for child discipline. All adults are expected to use the following guidelines when at the Head Start or Early Head Start centers and or the property. These guidelines are to be applied to adult interactions with their own children as well as others when in a Head Start setting. So these practices are for parents as well as those who are in authority as teachers or any other consultant or transportation person or fax. Any of those are expected to behave in the same manner. And so we made it a little bit more specific here. In order to have a safe experience for all children, we need to have a positive classroom environment. The teachers plan an appropriate schedule of activities and set reasonable expectations for the children on a daily basis. We've modified this just a little bit so that you can see how it works in the transportation area. The transportation experience is just as important. Bus monitors can and should have some planned activities as well for children when riding the bus. Reasonable expectations include realizing the children's individual abilities and desire to cooperate with one another while riding. Some of those opportunities or experience things that you can plan an activity is plan songs to sing, plan discussions that you can have, asking the children about their day, asking their children about what's going on in their life, just interacting and engaging the children. But there should be a plan. It shouldn't just be random. You should kind of know what things that you would like to speak with them about, or what songs that you could sing that would engage them while transporting either to or from school. There should always be positive reinforcement when you're supporting a child's behavior. Children's self-control and cooperation with others are developed. So you're part of helping them to learn self-control. You're part of helping them to learn cooperation. When a problem does occur, you try to help the children to work toward a solution. And there are steps that you can use when there's inappropriate behavior. First is redirecting the children toward appropriate behavior. So rather than just saying, stop it, you would rather say, how about we look at doing something else, or we try something different. Then, if you can, you discuss with the child why that behavior is inappropriate. Help the child come up with a plan for a better way to handle the problem. So you ask them questions, you engage them, see that they understand that the behavior is inappropriate, and then in addition, what they could do to change that behavior to handle the problem in a better way. Another thing is that after you've had that discussion, then you can give them a verbal reminder of that appropriate behavior. Oh, do you remember we talked about this? So you help the child to choose another activity if that behavior is continuing. So how about we try to sing a different song? How about we look at something else? Can you tell me about something else going on in your life right now? And so you go back and you remind them, now remember we had this discussion yesterday, or we just had this discussion a few moments ago. Let's talk about what we're going to do better. And so we've added here, bus rides do not provide for a lot of alternate activities. We understand that. There's not a lot of things you can do. You can't get them up and have them run around. You don't have toys and other activities. So allowing the child to choose the next song, or if they just don't want to participate and sing along, maybe that's enough to change the activity. What can be done with challenging situations? If the child is out of control and can't calm himself or herself down, it may be a need to monitor and stand or sit near them and try to quiet the activity, maybe a simple consoling talk. If a pattern of inappropriate behavior continues, maybe you should go ahead and consult the mental health manager by referring to through their supervisor. So you can go to your supervisor and say, I think I might be needing some help with the mental health manager to talk with how we might be able to deal with some of these challenging situations with a particular child. Your supervisor absolutely needs to complete a referral form in the process with the driver and the monitor to get it processed immediately. It's not something you just casually make mention of, but you fill out the proper referral form, and you don't need to have a discussion with the parents about it at this point. You're just getting help internally to see how we can adjust our actions to help this child who has this behavioral issue. The parents will be informed if the behavioral issue continues, and they'll use a SAT meeting to help schedule the children an opportunity for the parents to sit down and to hear and to discuss what might be able to be changed for some of these challenging situations. The parents, of course, need to be informed, but that, again, as I said, is scheduled. Persistent inappropriate behavior may include, but not limited to, repeated biting, kicking, throwing, destroying objects, inflicting harm to self, endangering them by running from the teacher, classroom, or the playground. Some of these actions, of course, don't relate to the travel or the transportation, but it's possible that you could have someone bite their neighbor or throw something, tear something up on the right. So there's some things that could happen. Notice the word repeated. A one-off situation may just have been a single bad day. You'll still report it as an incident or an accident if it includes biting, some sort of an injury to another child or to you yourself as a staff member. Psychology today wants to explain to us the difference between discipline and punishment. One way it says to convey the difference is through sharing the root meaning of each word. The word discipline means to teach, while punishment means to correct or cause pain. In the Head Start Consortium, we're not about using punishment to cause pain to give the correction, but we're about using discipline to teach. And so that's where we're looking at how we're going to handle ourselves in the proper discipline. So now, in the back of the book, we're getting to the sort of the long drudgery part here. In the back of your employee handbook, page 116, you can read along with it there, but all of these will be on here. There are 3 pages of definitions that help us to understand what we should not be participating in. Now, these definitions were not written by the consortium, not by the executive director, but these definitions come directly from the Head Start Performance Standards. And so this is what the Office of Head Start says is incorrect ways to discipline a child. So let's start here. It says, these are recognized by the Office of Head Start definitions for safety protocols. They impact the classroom and transportation. The topics indicated below are taken from the Code of Conduct in the Head Start Performance Standards. So at the close of this, I'll be showing you a document that's in the back of your Head Start employee manual that you are required to sign, and we'll have a look at that. But in the signature, you are saying that you have read, you have understood, you've received all of these definitions, and you plan to abide by these policies, and you recognize that they are the law of the land. So let's begin right away. Rejecting. The word rejecting has some specific thoughts behind it from the Office of Head Start. Constant criticism, name calling, telling a child mean things like you're ugly, demeaning jokes, verbal humiliation, excluding the child from activities, not allowing children to make reasonable choices, and consent, teasing, or embarrassing about the child's body type or weight. So remember, we can't shame a child. You wouldn't want to nickname somebody on the bus as Tubby and have everybody else calling them Tubby or making jokes about them. You don't want to tell them mean things about themselves. Now, you're just being ugly. You're just ugly like that. Why are you so ugly? Why do you act this way? So constantly criticizing the child is called rejecting. Isolating. Leaving the child in the room unattended or unsupervised. Leaving the child in the room but making them to go stand in a particular place, a corner, etc. Not allowing the child to interact with friends. Preventing children from participating in social experiences in the classroom. Well, in this particular case, it might be everybody can sing but you can't sing. Separating them, telling them they can't sit in their regular seat because something is wrong, they've been misbehaving too much, and you're going to move them for the day, or they've got to sit someplace else for a week. That's isolating the child. So that's not something that we're going to participate in either. Ignoring. So that would be not responding. Of course, you see here to the spontaneous social behaviors of an infant. You're not transporting infants, but not accepting the child as part of the classroom or part of what the events are that are going on the bus. Not responding to their needs. Maybe they have a need with their seat belt or something of that nature, and you just ignore it, don't deal with it. Failure to engage a child, just don't talk to them, or not paying attention to their interests or the events. The child's trying to talk to you, and you just don't want to talk to them. We don't ignore children. Corrupting. This is an interesting thought. Rewarding a child for bullying or harassing others. Even if a child's been picked on, you don't reward them by allowing them to bully someone else at another time, or teaching racism or ethnic biases. We don't teach children that one person is preferred over another because of their race or their ethnicity or their religion or anything, the way they dress, or teaching and recording or rewarding, encouraging lying or stealing. Of course, not too many opportunities for us to teach a child to lie or steal, but we ought to be careful. Those are all considered corrupting a child. Exploiting, of course, infants are one situation, but exploiting is also considered whenever a child is crying and you're not dealing with it, or anger toward a child when they fail to meet the developmental stage. I understand that, especially when they're first learning to get into their seats, it's hard for all of the children to be able to buckle themselves, and showing frustration if a child still hasn't got the capabilities. Not if a child's unwilling, you're working with them, but if they don't have the capability, simply being angry with them because they can't meet that stage is something called exploiting. So be careful and exercise your patience as best as possible, especially when children are facing their own challenging situations. Binding a child's mouth or hands. I've never seen that happen around us, but it has happened in other Head Starts. The use of tape, string, cloth to keep a child's mouth forcibly closed. We're not going to tape their mouth shut. The use of tape, string, cloth to bind the child's hands or any part of the body include tying to an object such as a chair, or restraining a child on the floor, buggies. We don't tie them in their seats. Of course, they use their child restraints to ride the bus, but we don't tie them down in any other fashion, or bind or close their mouth, or cover their mouth with tape. Withholding basic needs. Of course, again, you're not giving them food on the ride, you're not giving them water, but withholding things from them as a punishment or reward. This one particularly doesn't have a lot to do with transportation, but it is part of the basic needs that we must supply the children with the opportunities and not humiliate them during the day. Verbal abuse. We don't use harsh vocal tone. Shouting at the children or being harsh with them is considered verbal abuse. Making statements about the child or the family. Demonstrating a lack of respect by threatening or embarrassing or scaring the children. So trying to scare the children while on the bus to get them to be quiet would be inappropriate as well. Anything that seems to be derogatory or insulting. You're acting like your brother. You're acting like your sister. What's wrong with you? Those are still considered a form of verbal abuse. Unacceptable physical contact. This is always unacceptable for anyone. Any behavior of sexual nature, implication of sexual nature, intent, or perceived as intent will be viewed as unacceptable behavior. So obviously, I think we know what that is, and we know that it's always inappropriate. Touching someone or being sexual in an inappropriate way. This also goes for staff on staff. Disrespectful communication. It seems that we've already covered this, but you are to refer to the children by their name. Don't give every child nicknames and say that's funny. Anything that might depict negatively on their race, their gender, their religion, biases, it's all unacceptable. The use of profanity, sarcastic language are unacceptable. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch our language. It may be acceptable in your household, may be acceptable other places to use foul language or profanity, but not with the children here, and not with one another. It's disrespectful. Punishment and rewards. Denying children the right to participate in scheduled activities or giving them rewards to help them to do what you want them to do is inappropriate. Lack of supervision. We certainly don't want to leave a child unsupervised on a bus. We don't really have a lot of issues with being out of ratio or in ratio while transporting a child. Falling asleep while on duty while riding the bus is inappropriate as well. It's kind of difficult to do on the bus, but I suppose it's possible. Feeding a child from another's plate or food Again, you're not administering food while on the bus, and you're not usually giving medication while on the bus unless there would be an emergency. And again, you would not be using someone else's medication for a child. Continuing with lack of supervision, failure to follow the exact directions of a healthcare plan. Again, you probably don't have to deal with that except in an emergency. You do have to deal with releasing a child to unauthorized adult or underage adult. There are other policies that talk about who can and cannot receive a child. You of course know that if they are not on your contact list, you cannot release a child to them. And substitute or authorized people must go through the process to get authorized, and that's another training about how to check their license, how to confirm that through the fax and or the teacher or your supervisor, and that'll be provided to you in another training for authorized releases. Lack of engagement with the children, we've already talked about that. Having an unclean or unsafe learning environment. The buses should be clean, their seats should be clean, and it should be safe while they're traveling back and forth. No objects loose or free and able to move around should the bus have sort of an emergency or an accident during the day. Or having inappropriate conversations in the presence of the children. That's also, if you're having conversation between the bus driver and the monitor that are inappropriate, that children shouldn't be hearing, or that you should not be having the discussion at all because it prevents you from supervising the children, it's inappropriate. You need to be aware that videos and pictures could be used, and many of the buses are equipped with video recording equipment, and so we need to be aware that they might be used during the day, but at the same time, we are not to use our cameras, our phones, to take pictures of the children, text messages, or using back and forth to relay information about children or about the parents and their behavior. We're not to do it. We don't take pictures and videos of our children, and we certainly don't post any of those on any type of social media. So now we're getting to this form. It's in the back of your employee handbook. And by the way, those 3 pages of definitions are right in front of that form you're looking at here. And it looks just like this. It's called Acknowledgement of Performance Standards. You'll read through it. You'll notice the first paragraph on this is exactly the same paragraph that I read a few moments ago about the federal Head Start funds and all who will comply. You'll want to read the other paragraphs below, and you'll notice, at least on the screen here, it's in red. This is language that's been added to make sure that everyone understands. It was added through the Head Start program, but I do want to cover that. It says failure to comply with the above standards require a provision of the grant award may result in disciplinary action up to and including discharge, referral for criminal prosecution, and reimbursement of any loss or damage resulting from the violation. So be aware that if some of these things are criminally prosecutable, if you are participating in the actions against children or other staff. In addition to that, if some of your behavior has caused some sort of financial damage to property, or could be deemed as emotional damage, you might be held responsible for that and have to pay for the losses accordingly. So this is, you're signing that you knowingly understand and agree to follow the Head Start standards. This completes the training on child discipline. Thank you and have a great day.